welcome to our panel. When Amira gave me the topic for this panel, I was very excited for two reasons. My dad always said the only bad mistake was one that you didn't learn from. And the second thing is we know that the best infrastructure solutions come from understanding your context really well. And so today's panel is all about understanding how smart metering can be applied in our African context. And we have a really cool group of speakers today. When we discussed it amongst ourselves, we did want to be very conversational and engaging. So we're going to have very short introductions where each one of them are going to explain how their organization fits in the sort of smart metering space and their strategic intention. And then we're going to start a very conversational discussion about their experiences, what they've seen tangibly and where they want to go in future. And afterwards, we'd really like to sort of have engagement from the audience in questions and comments. So we're going to start with Richard. Richard is the Chief Operations Officer for Ghana Water Company. He has an engineering background, and prior to this role, he was also their Chief of Technology and Innovation. Richard, would you like to share something about your company?
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Ghana Water Company is the sole urban water utility in Ghana. We are responsible for supplying potable water to the people of Ghana. We've got 16 provinces, we call it regions. We have an operating capacity to supply water to almost 30 million people, and then we produce close to 320 million cubic meters of water a year. We have been in existence for about 100 years, but we've gone through a lot of phases and a lot of changes. Most of the current changes happened in the past decade, where technology and innovation started to drive a lot of the changes in the company. So now we are on the cusp of making sure that all the operations and the commercial activity in the company is driven by technology and secure technology to make sure that we improve on efficiency for the good people of Ghana. So that's brief about my company, and our vision is to become a world-class utility. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Our next speaker today is Johannes Surunda. He is the Acting Chief Scientific Officer for Namibia Water Corporation.
Yeah, thank you, and very good morning to you all. So in brief, I'm from the Namibia Water Corporation, we abbreviate it in short to NamWater. So NamWater is a state-owned entity, 100% owned by the government of Namibia. So, and the government of Namibia is represented by board of directors. So the company was established by the Act of Parliament 12 of 1997, and that's when it started with its operation. So in terms of customer base, there is a bulk water supplier. It supplies water to local authorities. This is town council, municipality, village council, regional council, you name it. It also supplies bulk water to irrigation customers like horticulture, whatever you have. And we also supply water to industries and mines, and also to government buildings which are found outside the jurisdiction of municipalities. So our vision is to be a sustainable water utility that supplies water which is affordable and also in sufficient quantity and quality to all our stakeholders. So I think the rest which were provided there is mainly our challenges, which I will dwell more when we'll go into the discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Sakele Kuzwayo. He's the Manager of Innovation Technology at Johannesburg Water.
Thanks. Can I stand over there? I'm getting blinded by the minute.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm from the city of Joburg. And, of course, the stepchild to the city of Joburg is Joburg Water. So, basically, the idea here from our side is to try and educate. I feel the industry has learned as much as it can from their side. It's time to engage from the municipality side to tell the story. Because I can describe it as bringing a package which is 3 times the door, and you can't get into my house. So currently, you guys as technologists are bringing huge packages which can't fit in our doors. How do we help you fit in the door? Do we need to unpack and take it one step at a time? Or are we going to try and shove it in and break the door down, and the latter won't work? In Joburg, we have over 6 million citizens, and I think we have over just under 2 million households, and about 550,000 customers who are basically in our system. So basically, we're quite large, and we do grapple with the issue of smart metering quite a bit. But I think more so it's time we focus the conversation on the customer being me to my own customers who are the company itself. So my job as innovation technology is to be the customer to Joburg Water, and also before you get there, you must go through me. So that's the knowledge that I would like to share with you guys going forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Zach. And the last speaker for today is Lubabalo Luyaba. He's a Water and Sanitation Senior Manager at Salga.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lubabalo from Salga. At Salga, so for those who aren't familiar with the South African context, we've got 257 municipalities. Of those 257, 144 are water service authorities, so they're responsible for ensuring access. So as Salga, we generally represent all of those. And in that, there's various things that we do. We do lobbying, advocacy, and representation at different intergovernmental levels. We're an employer body. We do capacity building, which I think is linked to today. Support and advice, again, engagements such as today enable us to do that in an effective manner. We do strategic profiling and knowledge and information sharing, which again, I think is critical on emerging areas that could improve water services provision across the 144 water service authorities in South Africa. So that's who we are and what we do. And generally, we're trying to transform local government to enable it to fulfill its developmental mandate. Thanks.
Thanks, Luba. Actually, Luba, I wanted to start with you first. In order for us to know where we want to go, we need to know why we're going there. So can you give us a little bit more background of the challenges with doing things or leaving things the way they are with conventional and traditional metering in an African context?
Are we able to, I see the next slide is actually there, which would give us a background.
Can we go to the next slide, please?
So I think, colleagues, municipalities are, as it pertains to water and sanitation services provision, are under a lot of pressure for various reasons. And one of those is, if the slide had come up, you'll see the top 5 challenges that our 144 water service authorities are facing in the country are: 1, financial asset management, its wastewater challenges, its revenue collection, its operations and maintenance of assets, its infrastructure asset management, and there's water conservation and demand management, which speaks to no non-revenue water in part. But a big problem that a lot of municipalities are raising, I'll say on average, is that they don't have enough money to do what they need to do. And a large reason for why they don't have enough money to do what they need to do is they're not able to collect all of the revenue for services provided that they should. We could debate the quality of services that municipalities provide, but maybe we don't go there. But it's very difficult to provide a sustainable service when the money is not coming in. And there's various reasons for that. But I think in the bottom line, I think as Gisela indicated, it's seeming more and more that the water business in the South African local government sector is not seeming viable or sustainable if change does not happen. And the view is that for that change to happen, it needs to be evidence-based so that you can say, this is what I'm doing, this is why I'm doing it, this is the improvement that I've seen. And I think AMI presents that opportunity to enable that evidence-based decision-making towards an improvement of the service holistically. Yeah, so I'd say at a high level, really, that's where we are, that's why we need to change. If we don't change, people are not going to get water, that's the end of it. And AMI gives us one of the many tools that are critical as a building block to enable us to make the right decisions that move us in the direction that we desperately need to go to, or go in, rather.
I agree with you. Information's an asset, right? And Richard, from a Ghanaian perspective, have you seen any specific challenges to conventional metering that AMI can solve?
So our issues as a company have been influenced by major societal problems, economic problems, and environmental problems. And let me just speak to each of them. I don't know if it's a cultural issue, but the issue of meters, specifically turbine meters, which you call mechanical meters in time past, have presented so many challenges to us as a utility for so long, where because by design or by nature of the meters, people with attitude for corruption find ways to tamper with the meters. So that's the biggest issue in terms of tampering. Either they tamper with it so that the meters don't read well, or they read backwards, so people sometimes turn the meters, or they bypass the meters, or they put a hot pin through the meters so that the dials don't move to read. At the time that a meter reader will go to a customer's house, the meter is not measuring the right volumes of water. And over time, it started showing in the volumes that people were consuming were going down against the volumes that we're producing. So there was a huge issue of non-revenue water from that side. So it's the attitude of the people in our society that was creating problems. And then most of these mechanical meters also had brass components, which presented huge economic value to some dark market people who were stealing the meters and taking away the brass component. So every time you get a call that there's a leakage, you go, the meter has been stolen, and then the water is just gushing away. So all these societal challenges compounded with economic issues affected us as a utility, and we're drying out of revenue. So the change in direction for us moving towards, first, meters that do not have moving parts. So it's not just smart meters, but meters that do not have moving parts. That's the first bit. So meters that maybe rely on ultrasonic technology or magnetic technology, so that if they do not have moving parts, the level of accuracy is significantly improved. And then they do not have metal component or visible metal components, which represent economic value to people. Because then once you install meters and people are stealing them, there's no use for the company. So all these things put together got us to drive towards smart ultrasonic meters and magnetic meters for use by the utility. And then since we started doing pilots of these projects and then now upscaling them to bigger scale, we've seen hugely significant improvement in the revenue base of the company. And every move you do towards non-revenue water reduction is a win-win, because the investments you get, the return on investment, you can reinvest, and then the company keeps growing. So now we've been able to use that to also impress upon the regulator to give us a specific line element in the tariff dedicated towards getting meters. And that has been a very hugely significant policy change for the whole country.
And the environmental, the environmental factors?
You know, all of us know that mechanical meters, issues related to quality of water affect turbine meters. Over time, if the water quality is not too great, the lifespan of mechanical meters in terms of producing efficient or effective measurement is significantly reduced. So the life cycle cost of having such a meter installed and getting this real return on investment is not achieved. But when you have meters that have IP68 rating, that have the protection of the environment against the components and then a bit of flooding, it sort of protects your investment in that regard to make sure that you get your return on investment within the very short space. And Ghana has rainfall pattern that is really high. So if the meters are installed, visible all over, and then it's raining and getting flooded, then you are losing all the investments you made in those meters. So that, together with the specifications that we developed, that allowed us to be able to get meters with high protection against all these dust and environmental factors. It's not as clean as Cape Town. Cape Town is a very clean city. But in Accra, you see a lot of dust. So it's not because you are very close to the Sahara, you know. Thank you.
I think this also speaks to what Rashid spoke about in his presentation yesterday, that he said the meters had to last over 10 years for that financial model to start becoming bankable. And Janice, from a Namibian context?
Thank you. From a Namibian context, us from the utility supplying water in the entire country is on its own, it's already a challenge. Plus Namibia is an arid country, so you'll find some area there is enough water, some areas the water is limited. So now, in view of the mechanical meters, they have been helping us for an extended period of time, but now with the increase in demand and also the population in certain areas, we have seen some challenges which are emanating from how far can we use the mechanical or the conventional way of reading. So we have seen issues of vandalism of the mechanical water meters in certain areas, especially in the northern part of the country. We have also seen the issue of theft. I think it was emphasized it's not maybe only us, so the rest of the world maybe is experiencing that. So, and we have also seen limitation when it comes to conventional water meter readings. Like, for example, we received some readings which are not correct sometimes, and that results in a lot of queries now with the customers. Things need to be rectified. So the other issue is also delays in billings. So sitting with a vast base of individual customers, you need a lot of meter readers to collect those readings. So sometimes if they miss a day or two, or 3 or 4 of them are not feeling well, then you have to go to estimation for that particular month, because you won't be able to meet the cutoff dates. So that's also a challenge on its own. On the issue of quality, we have also seen that in view of our geographical or spatial distribution, so we have certain water sources which are not of good quality, especially groundwater, in the interior and also in the southern part of the country. So we have seen that mechanical water meters sometimes they experience clogging because of the calcium carbonate which comes from those water sources. So we have also seen that these mechanical water meters, especially when they're processing water from rivers during times of high floods or whatever, they also get tempted with the issue of clogging. So from a quality point of view, we've seen those limitations emanating from the mechanical water meters. Thank you.
Thank you. Zach, I'm very interested in your experience with projects that you've actually rolled out in the smart metering space. Could you tell us a little bit more about that? And some of the lessons you've learned, the good and the bad, maybe some of the ugly.
All right, let me try and face the audience. Yes, we've done a couple of things in terms of the metering space before Cape Town poached Mr. Shane, who was... And we have a couple of projects that we had planned to usher through with regards to, of course, that space. But more importantly, I want to focus that conversation towards the technologists. I think one of the issues we have directly is that when we speak proof of concepts or pilots, we're looking at it purely from a technology point of view. We forget the other value chain, which is quite important. It's very difficult to then implement something which is in isolation together with other elements, for instance, supply chain, contracting, and so on. So we can have all these good things, have all this good data, but then when we come to implementing, we'll struggle. Naturally, we are struggling as Joburg Water to put to ground technologies that we've looked at and are happy with from a technical perspective. But then now, again, back to my analogy, we've got a huge packet outside the door. The door is very small. You know, how then do we try and get the pieces of the huge package outside into the room and we start using it? Because right now we can't use the technology because it's stuck outside our doors. So that's where we are. I think our struggles are there. How then do we look at contracting? How then do we look at supply chain? How do you look at O&M? How do you look at all these aspects which are part and parcel of us being able to do business with you guys? So ultimately, in the end, we have all the tools, but we can't use them. So the experience is that basically we should come together, have a two-way relationship. In fact, I would think we must talk more as municipalities and you guys talk less, because all you're doing is selling. We want to buy, but we don't know what to buy or how to buy it. So fundamentally, that's our experience as Joburg Water. And I think it goes across most municipalities that basically we have this misalignment between the buyer and the seller. And the seller, of course, it will go a long way if they do a background work. You guys need to understand how the MFMA works, how we contract, how we do our RFIs. So it's easier for you then to bring a complete product that I can take in and use, basically. Because you leave it at the door, then I must come through and do my own research and then unpack it and put it together. And you still want to get paid for basically being support on the side. So we can't work that way. Those are generally the lessons we've learned. And I think we need to pave a new path towards working together and making sure we can get AMI. I mean, we love AMI. It's good in concept, but we haven't used it. And we're jumping too many steps that we have not literally tick boxed on from our side. So that's the lessons learned, and I would like to open a discussion, not just me, with municipalities and Babalo over there, to see how best we can try and achieve this. And of course, once we've grown and matured talent, and then perhaps it can stay in Joburg Water, opposed to coming to Cape Town.
Before I ask Luba to give us some feedback on that, are there any suppliers who want to respond? Anyone? Okay.
They're all shy.
We'll get questions again later. Oh, there's one.
I suppose the question will be, given the input from Joburg Water, I mean, what experiences has the city of Cape Town learned, in order to avoid some of the challenges that Joburg Water has gone through, especially in light of the fact that you guys are going to be going to the market in this space?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for that question. Again, I'll stand so I can see your face. Where are you? Yes. Basically, each city is are intricate. We are a metro. We work a bit differently. If you recall at the beginning, I said that we're a stepchild of the city of Joburg. It means basically we are a separate entity on the side, which we formally call municipal-owned entity. So we work differently, and we all have intricate aspects of what we do. It's very difficult at this point to benchmark with Cape Town, who have a different model. It's very difficult to benchmark with Ghana, who have a different model. So ultimately, in the end, the better we understand where we are from and what we are doing, and of course, my job is to deliver water and collect the water and clean it. Your guys' job is to make my life easier, but you're not. So if you can make my life easier by understanding the whole value chain, then of course you can give me a package that I can actually use accordingly. So to answer the question in a nutshell, we're all very intricate and very different, so it's difficult to benchmark. Thanks.
Is there anyone from the city of Cape Town who wants to also respond?
So I stepped out and then I walked in, and then when I was asked if is there anyone from the city of Cape Town, but I did kind of get a bit of the issue, but I'm just going to repeat it before I respond to it. I think the challenge that was posed is that with, yes, there is an idea to be innovative. There is a need to be innovative. However, there are procurement challenges that utilities face. And then the question was posed into the room whether any solutions can come out from the floor. Yeah. All right. I think from our point of view, in the South African perspective, we do have a supply management framework, and each utilities has policies that guides that, and they provide an indication in terms of what you can have. But I think what is quite vital from the City of Cape Town point of view is to be able to do a clear feasibility in terms of your need. What is it that you're wanting to achieve? And then that needs to be reflective then from your specification that you're going to throw out of to the market. Because in order for that market is able to respond to your needs, you need to be clear in what you want to achieve, what you want to get out of the market, and the objectives. What we did from the City of Cape Town perspective as well, we tested the market in terms of market readiness. Is it going to be able to provide what we need? Is going to be able to give us a product that is fit for purpose? And then the information we were able to obtain from the market, we used it to input in terms of ensure that we have a specification that is going to be able to achieve our goals and be able to have a responsive tenderers from the market.
Yeah, the feasibility stage and sort of market research is extremely important. Luba, from Salga's perspective?
In terms of?
In terms of some of the challenges that Zach mentioned from Johannesburg Water's side, how do you think that looks at, how does it influence the smaller municipalities?
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with Zach that there's a degree of misalignment between the buyer and the seller, if you will, and at all levels. And I think, again, it's difficult to speak about municipalities because while they're similar, they're also unique. And for colleagues who aren't from the South African context, the legal definition in the Systems Act of a municipality is the council, the administration, and the community. As you can imagine, how different two neighboring municipalities might be on the basis of how those three, one of those three kind of looks and what their needs and demands are. So I would agree with Zach that we have a large misalignment, but I think another challenge that we've got, and this is not pointing fingers, but I think legislatively a compliance culture has been created in the country where municipalities are fearful of being innovative because there's so many boxes to tick, and if you dare miss one, it's suddenly fruitless and wasteful expenditure, or it's corruption, or it's this. So it's put a lot of municipalities in a position where they'd rather just be safe and do what is straightforward and simple. But with the problems that we've got, straightforward and simple doesn't work anymore. So again, I think a lot of times the sellers don't understand those kind of nuances and detail and challenges that the municipalities, or let's say the administration and councils in municipality face. And it sometimes seems as though municipalities are resistant to change and technology, where that's actually not the case. It's just the environment in which they work, which differs from municipality to municipality, but there's also similarities. And I think a lot of work then is going into that to try and see how we can change and improve things in that regard. But I must be honest, we've not made the progress that we'd like to see. If you look at the level of infiltration or penetration of technology and innovation generally in municipal service provision across the country, not just in the metros.
You know, when I hear you guys speak, there's a lot of congruencies between the discussion here and what was said yesterday. I think, Rashid, once again, in your presentation, you made the point that the financial model, sometimes we have to be conservative because of that fear, and then it doesn't really show us the full picture or potential. Richard, from your country, have you seen pilot projects or projects rolled out that we can learn from the good things that come from it and the challenges?
Thank you. So we started this journey about a decade ago, and the first major project that we did was supported by the World Bank. So we have a centralized procurement system in Ghana where we have a central procurement agency. And I said, Ghana Water Company, unlike South Africa that has different companies, we are one company that manages the entire country. So it's a very huge company. It's not like Cape Town Water, Joburg Water. We have, as I said, we manage 16 provinces and then about 270 municipalities all over. So the procurement process is such that once the specifications are developed, there are certain processes that you go through to get the meters. And the World Bank also has its own specifications and standards for procurement. When we wanted to venture into the area of smart meters, the reasons that I spoke about earlier as societal challenges, environmental challenges, and economic challenges were very convincing to the World Bank that they will give us some money as a seed money to pilot a project. So what we did was that we procured our first set of projects, and luckily they were Camstrop meters. Those were our first set of meters we procured. And then we selected a pilot district area to install all these meters there to now measure the volumes, put in a DMA meter and see what sort of lessons we could learn as an incubator or a laboratory. When we did that and we compared it to the data that we had gathered for the previous years, we realized that we were being cheated a lot by customers because most of the meters were not functional. And then our own meter readers had also gone into partnership with unscrupulous customers and underbilling them, because if somebody has a commercial entity and then the person's bill was maybe $10,000 a month, they were now billing the person maybe $1,000, and then they'll take $1,000 into their pocket and then the customer saves $10,000. It was a struggle for us to be able to see all of these things. So we decided to go in there, and the biggest challenge we faced was resistance to change from our own staff. The people on whose behalf we're working to make sure that their work were efficient in the company were the ones resisting the changes in the company. So then we'll now go behind and then be telling customers that these meters that we're bringing, we're going to double and multiply their consumption, so that customers will now also resist and then talk to the regulator. But we, as an engineer, our approach was purely based on science and engineering. Before we deployed any technology, the process was to first send the meters to the Ghana Standards Authority that had a laboratory for metrology, for testing that there was compliance in terms of the standards first, so that by law, nobody would say that the meters were tampered with in a way that it was giving us an unfair advantage. And then even customers themselves, with mechanical meters, because they've got moving parts, when the air valves in the systems are not working well, and then customers open their tap and then they hear air flowing through their pipes, the air also turns a spindle and then it's also read. So some customers were also not happy about the fact that their meters were reading air. So putting in all these systems also provided good argument for customers to now believe that these things will kneel to their favor. So once we did a pilot project, for one district, we had a 44% increase in consumption figures. And then we put a DMA meter as a boundary meter to check the volumes of water that were getting into the district, and we're comparing. And that allowed us to be able to target our non-revenue water strategies and focus to reduce our non-revenue water in the particular district. And based on that approach, we were now able to present that as a use case to the board of directors, that this is the direction to go. Even though the unit price of smart meters, ultrasonic meters, were much more higher than mechanical meters, there's clear demonstration that they were having hugely significant return on investment for the things we're doing. So now the board asked us to provide a very detailed, comprehensive cost-benefit analysis for them to be able to justify why we want to move into this direction. We went back and forth. We were summoned to the Parliament of Ghana because, as I said, our company is a national company that is responsible for the whole country. We proved to them that this is the direction to go, and then they gave us the approval. And as I said previously, now we have a very small component in the tariff structure dedicated to buying meters, because now the regulator, the government, and the people have believed that this is the way to go, because once you have a good judge, which is a good measure between us and the customer, which is a reliable meter, it solves a lot of problems. And with advancement in technology from our end, where now our billing system is sitting on the cloud, such meters with great level of intelligence allows connectivity so that there will be seamless flow of data from the meter to the billing system, and eliminating all the waste in between by the human intervention, so that those human beings who are working there could now be redeployed to do other things which are very proactive to develop the company. So our case study has been very useful, and a lot of different African countries come to visit to really understand the processes we went through, because, as I said earlier, most of the challenges we face as a utility in terms of the problems with mechanical meter is not dissimilar to what they face. It's not dissimilar to theft, vandalization, under-reading, bypassing, all of that. And if you look at the International Water Association model for computing non-revenue water, metering inaccuracy and data handling errors are part of the equation. How do you solve that part of the equation? If your measurement is not right, how do you focus and develop a strategy to reduce non-revenue water? Thank you.
It's crazy how something as simple as trust can actually help us push infrastructure projects through. It's getting people's buy-in by getting them to trust the system. And to do that, we prove it to them. We're not just telling them, we're showing them. That's brilliant. I think I also read something that you told me about you're using drones to read the meters.
Yes.
Please tell us more. That sounds cool.
So, we have the fixed network, and then we have the drive-by network for meter infrastructure. But there are places that are very difficult to reach. And as I said earlier on, we've got places where they're flooding and sometimes it's so difficult to reach. So what we did was that with the drive-by handheld meter reading devices, we just attach it to a drone, and we were trying to do a test to see whether it's going to work. And then since the distance or the range in terms of reading meters is about 1 kilometer if the environment is right, or 2 kilometers, we decided to fly the drone at certain height around the areas where the meters were. And within 5 minutes, we had read over 500 meters. And when we came to the office to download the meter to really check, it was incredible that we had about 98.5% success in almost all the meters in the neighborhood. And it was something that we were just trying to see. We were playing with drones, and we said, let's try and see if this will work. And we actually reported it to our developer that we have now gone ahead of their R&D to use drones to read meters. And it's been an incredible journey, because there are some places where it's very difficult to read meters, especially some slums where when you want to send your meter readers, the people are very troubled. They don't want you to come and read a meter. So you just fly the drones over, and then you get all the bills. And then they get their bills as SMS on their phones. And they have the mobile money or the Visa card technology where they can pay without you going there. You know, because some places, customers unleash their dogs on our meter readers. You know, so this is something that we're trying to play around, and then the results were incredible.
I think this innovation is fine. That's well done. And Johannes, from a Namibian perspective, do you have any cool stories for us?
Not cooler than the one of drone. So I think from our side as NAMOTA in Namibia, we are governed by various acts. I think one which is relevant maybe to this team is the Procurement Act, so which we follow for all the public entities. So with that act, we recently, I think we received the blessing of the procedure on how we can handle unsolicited proposals. So before the act, before these procedures, we used to receive a lot of proposals from a lot of water meter techs companies sending to us, but we're not sure as how can we handle this proposal, which procurement procedure should we follow. These are unsolicited proposals, so which steps should we follow? So, but now we have those guidelines in place as to how we can go about attending to them, which is very good. So in terms of piloting from our side, like I was saying earlier on, we are a bulk water supplier. However, we do also deal with individual customers. So I can say 70% we're supplying bulk customers. These are big customer mines, like I mentioned earlier, irrigation schemes and local authorities. So now, when we look at our conventional water meter challenges, we look at the bulk side and we look at the individual customer side. So on the bulk side, the issue which was coming up was the issue of non-payment. So with some of our local authorities. So we decided to venture into prepaid systems for bulk. So we installed around 5 big prepaid water meters to local authorities which were not paying us on time. So when we installed those prepaid systems, so there were positive responses to some local authorities. They were paying on time, because what we structured was that 80% will go to what you will consume, 20% will then service your debt. So that was working to some local authority. Some of them, they even paid off whatever they were owing us. But now there were a lot of political interferences on that bulk water systems. You'll find that some of your ministers, they might also be in that particular town. So when they run out of unit, the whole town is off. So there's no water. So we were getting pressures, especially from our line ministry and also from the ministry of the local authorities that no, these people, they don't have money now to pay for the unit, so please bypass. So those interferences, they were coming, but some local authorities, they were really appreciating the technology and they were paying on time. So I think the other challenge, apart from the political interference, was that if we install on the bulk side, on the distribution side, they should also do something in order for them to collect and pay. So we realized that some of our local authorities, they have mechanical water meters on the distribution side, and some customers are also not paying, or their collection rate is very poor on that side. So that was a challenge which we picked up from this testing, which we are hoping to address, that if we install on the bulk side, on the distribution side, there should also be improvement in order for the bulk side to be honored. So in addition to the bulk side, we also looked at individual customers. So with individual customers, we have around 60,000 individual customers. So we're looking at, they do have mechanical water meters, but should we remove all the mechanical water meters, or what can we do to improve our meter reading on the mechanical ones? So we decided to venture into handheld metering. So it was a pilot. We procured 2 devices. We're looking at which one will be easy to use by our meter readers. So we tested for a period of 6 months, and then we discovered through interviews with our meter readers, also through engagement with various customers, we discovered that one of the devices was the best and easy to use in that particular environment. However, the issue of resistance from the internal customers or internal employees, as it was mentioned by the previous speaker, we also experienced it in that those deals which he was talking about, they do happens in those communities. You find a meter reader. I install my meter today. For the past maybe, I only pay now 50 rand. For the past 10 years, I haven't been paying. But I have been giving the money to the meter reader. He will come, say, I give him 100. He will go. He doesn't register me, doesn't take any reading. So now, when we installed the handheld metering system, so it will look at your initial consumption when the meter was installed. And then it will calculate to what are the current reading now. So some of those customers, you'll see their bills were shooting to close to millions. So now, but the money was being given to the meter reader who normally pass by, and he doesn't report the reading to the office. So those were the challenges which we discovered with the handheld. So, and the other rollout which we did was to look at the prepaid for individual customers as well. So it was a new scheme. We made an agreement, a management decision that we will go full prepaid for this new scheme. So however, I think the challenge with that was that we never engaged the customers properly. We have installed the system. The system is, it's not yet commissioned. So we are looking at engaging the customers for us to commission the system. But at the moment, we are experiencing a lot of vandalism on that new system. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Zach, where to from here with Johannesburg Water?
Fundamentally, I think having the meter on the ground is one good thing, but keeping it there is another issue. We can talk AMI all day. If it's not where it's supposed to be, we can't do much about that. Currently, we're exploring technologies that can be tamper-proof. I'm not too sure if some of the technologists here have looked into that. We focus so much sometimes at the small stuff. We forget the real obvious things. And in South Africa, or I'll say Joburg, people are very creative at being illegal. And they find ways to play with systems, and currently we're struggling. In fact, before we came down here, we had discussions to see whether there is a universal non-tamper-proof system for meters. And of course, the only people who came back with positive results was that it was unique to their own meters, which of course, again, better supply chain. It does not work that way. So can I urge some of you technologists to look at how we deal with meters, the housing aspects and the non-tampering, because that's quite important. And again, I can say we won't have any MI without keeping it where it's supposed to be. So where to from here for us is to make sure, number one, we can secure meters. I know it's a very fundamental argument, but would rather go that way because some of the things we've missed, I think, for many decades. We know that crime is strife. Well, I'm sure even in the city of Cape Town, there was a no-go area conversation yesterday. So clearly we suffer from the same issues. So if we can try and look at those fundamental things, it will be easier for us to go forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Zach. And Luba, you had some interesting news from the funding side?
Well, it's not my news. I think South Africa is undergoing or exploring a general reform in the water sector, and that is happening at various levels. One of the interesting and potentially, I think, positive things that may happen in this space that's related to today is the introduction of a smart meter grant by National Treasury that municipalities will be eligible for. It's obviously initially linked to debt relief for both ESCOM debt, so it's electricity and water. So I think that's probably going to assist quite a bit, especially for municipalities who don't have the budget, the initial capital budget. And it probably will assist also in creating or making the business cases a bit more feasible if there's a grant that you can access. But I think the great opportunity that also exists with that is for us to continue conversations such as these, because there's a business plan that a municipality must submit. And I think the learnings over yesterday, today, and tomorrow need to kind of feed into that process. And the collective experiences from the rest of the continent need to feed into that to ensure that the money is optimally utilized, because we've had grants before and not necessarily reaped the benefits. But if we work collaboratively and we share information and knowledge, I think there's a big chance that we could improve from where we are.
I agree with you 100% on that. And Richard, when we spoke previously, you said that what was next for you was to look at performance-based contracts. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Okay, so we are currently embarking on a project also with the World Bank. We had an extension of the previous project we did 2015. After a very successful implementation, we are moving away from the point where we get a carrot just handed to us. Now we are moving towards the point where if there's any investment, what sort of key performance indicators are set for us to be able to now use that as a basis to be able to get more money. So we had a meeting with the World Bank, and then the World Bank agreed that instead of now bringing their own contractors to come and work, we, as Ghana Water Company, we have great engineers, we've got great staff. What we need is that they should bring an independent expert or an engineer, and they should give us all the key performance indicators in terms of performance contracting, and give us the money for us to be able to deploy technology that could be assessed by the independent engineer, so that if we are able to achieve any target or a milestone in there, then any related investment related to that particular performance, now that money is given to us to invest to expand. So the World Bank agreed for us to now start a project which is worth about $40 million. What essentially we are doing is that we are doing DMAs, and I'm sure most of us here we know what DMA is. DMA is a district metered area, so we pick up a small area of about 1,000 customers, and then we make sure that we have a hydraulically defined boundary. When I say hydraulically defined, it means that the network around water that goes into that particular boundary is known. We put pressure meters and all of that. And then now we focus all non-revenue water interventions. So leakage management, pressure management, metering every customer in there, making sure that the system volume input into that particular area is measured. And then each deliverable or item in the project charter has a corresponding value. Once that's achieved and is certified by an independent engineer, then the World Bank will pay us the money, and then now we invest to achieve the next target. So that's what we've been doing for the past 3 years. It's a 5-year project, and what we've agreed with them that once we're able to successfully do that, the World Bank has about $1 billion. Our next capital requirement for non-revenue water management in Ghana Water is about $1.2 billion. So there's agreement that once we're able to achieve that, then they will give us access to assess that level of credit to be able to now invest so that we can now achieve all the measured indicators in improving non-revenue water. And 10 years ago, our non-revenue water was around 56. We've come down by 13%, which is, and most of it has been done by ourselves, not by anybody, because when I took over as Chief of Technology, I made it very clear with every international agency that in terms of capacity, we have the capacity like anybody else in the world. I've been trained in the UK, I've been trained in Germany. I understand how water utilities work in England, from Thames Water to SWAN Trent. I know what Ofwat does in terms of tariff regulation. So I don't really need somebody to come and sit on my neck. I understand the various processes. So what I need is that currently, because of issues of funding and then legacy issues, these are our targets. Give us the funding, give good terms, which will allow us to be able to repay any capital investment in a project so that we can demonstrate that we can achieve results. And so far, things are working well. We are being used as an example for a lot of other utilities. Different from England and then US, Millennium Challenge Corporation have sent other utility companies in Africa from Sierra Leone, Liberia, Gambia, Zambia, for them to come in and understudy the process that we have gone through. And most of it, when we started, was from internally generated funds because we had the CEO who had a very clear vision that this is the way to go. Let's do this. And then we started looking at our own unique problems and developing our own unique solutions. And yesterday I was telling somebody that I think Ghana is the only country in the world where we don't have street addressing system. If I gave you my house address, nobody will be able to find it. And and that is the reality. If I mention my house address, nobody, even my neighbor, will probably know. And that has been a problem in Ghana, that if you need to find direction to some place, you just have to say that, okay, when you get to that road, that traffic light, turn left. If you see that blue building, the house behind, that is how we've always given direction. So if you pick a taxi, this is how to find your way. And Google Maps have come to help us in getting location direction because we don't have a national codified addressing system, unfortunately. Every other country, Togo, Burkina Faso, all the small countries around us, all of them have addresses. When you mention address in Nigeria, in Togo, in Benin, anybody will be able to take you there. I live in a very middle-class area. When I give my address, nobody knows it. So our problems are compounded by lack of addressing, and we, as a country, recently, I think for the past 5 years now, try to implement what we call national addressing system using Google Maps, which has worked somehow, but it's a problem. So our billing system, everything has been now tailored to a specific problem. Because if you have a meter reader and the meter reader resigns today, when you employ a meter reader tomorrow, he doesn't know where to send this bill when the bills are generated. So that has been a problem. So we started off by now employing a very strong geographical information system, getting satellite images, digitizing properties, giving them unique addressing, so that we will find a way to now know which customer does this account belongs to. So, as I said, our story and our journey has been very unique to a lot of different circumstances because first we used to buy off-the-shelf softwares, but they were not working. So we developed our own unique solution for our own unique circumstances, and they are now working well. Salaries are going up, people are happy, and all of that.
The best solutions are context-based. No, seriously. We are running out of time, so are there any urgent questions from the audience or comments? Yes?
Hello again, Sasonke from Frost & Sullivan. Thank you again for the informative panel discussion. I think I'm a bit of an optimist or a realist, not half glass full or half empty, just 50% capacity of water in it. So my question is, there's a lot of growth, and I just want to understand how do you tackle the challenges in the industry's regulatory side, the product itself, and the system. So, for example, things that work with the regulatory side is like authoritative bodies have policies and regulations, great. But then the not so great part is how is it actually effectively enforced? Then when it comes to the product itself, efficient, it works really well, but then the interoperative, like the how do you retrofit or how do you implement it? Like that's the part that doesn't necessarily work, or works sometimes. And then the third part being the infrastructure itself. It's extensive and it's expanding, but the problem with it is the capital. We struggle with the capital expenditure when it comes to this, and also just in general the retrofitting and the compatibility of these new systems and the smart meters entering into this existing aging infrastructure.
Okay, those are like 10 questions in one. All right, I think the first couple, I can ask ATN to answer those. I'm kidding, sir. In terms of, I'll start with the last ones. When it comes to infrastructure and backlogs, I think we'd all agree that, again, through no fault of any system, that infrastructure issues in this country are basically national, where basically budgets are not set aside to try and deal with such elements. But more importantly, we have working systems that, again, are unique to each space to try and sort of play catch-up. We have budgets for, the capital, we have budgets for expenditure, we have budgets for repairs and so on, let alone technology. So technology usually just falls outside of that. You literally need to go beg for someone to give you $1 million, and even that's too much. So it's one of those things where basically you try and work within the framework and try and be creative, not necessarily being innovative. So it's literally a headache. That's why most of the guys in operations, senior managers, usually have, they have bald heads and such, because you're basically trying to fix a system which is unfixable, to be honest. Right now, at this very moment, how many people are basically vandalizing? We're talking about taps being broken. We're talking about infrastructure in general. So how then do we try and deal with a situation where for every minute that you're trying to fix, there's 10 more things happening to basically kill the process? And it's not necessarily, I'm not being not optimistic. I'm very optimistic in how we can get things done and improve. Every percent or every inch that you try and improve per year goes a long way, otherwise the system will fall apart. So we try and keep the balance, to be honest, because the citizens, the ones who very demand the system, are the ones generally responsible for breaking it down. So you can try stakeholder relations and communication and all that. Naturally, it's the attitudes, and attitudes basically come from the top. We have a system of entitlement, like most countries, which is sold to people because, of course, they need votes. Then that filters down to the end where people naturally don't respect the environment. I hope that answers the 10 questions.
Thanks, Zach. I think we are at time, so we won't take any more questions. But I really just want to say thank you to our panelists. You guys have a wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate your honesty today. Thank you.